so complete, entire families and all the I use that snot for tea, take it. Water. Some areas, the devastation was so complete, entire families and all the records wiped out. They don't even know how many people were there to begin with. A lot of estimates how many people died. Our curator selected one of those estimates for us to use, so hopefully we'll all use the same numbers. That doesn't mean our numbers are right. There's a lot of numbers out there. Some of them way higher than we use. Our numbers say somewhere between 55 million and 70 million people died in that war. I have to be honest, I use those numbers for every tour I give, and I have for several years now, and I still cannot fully comprehend that. To give you a little something to relate it to give you an idea of what that means, it'd be as though we took today's population, every man, woman, and child, from New York City, Los Angeles, and Tokyo, all three, and removed them from the earth. That's about how many people died in that war. About 20 million of those killed, about a third of the total by our numbers. Like I said, there's some that are over twice that high. About 20 million of those killed were military, which means the vast majority of the people that died in that war were civilians, basically defenseless men, women, and children. And we seldom, if ever, hear that. The war in Europe ended in May of 1945. That's when Germany surrendered. So when the ceremony took place right up here, September 2nd of 1945, it was the final official ceremony to end that horrible tragedy. People ask me where was the ship during the ceremony. I suspect you know this, but just to be sure, she was in Tokyo Bay. They could see Mount Fuji and the shoreline of Japan from the decks of the ship that day. The Japanese agreed to surrender. They started planning the ceremony. MacArthur said no more than 30 minutes. They had work to do. Weren't going to be hanging around here a long time. The ceremony scheduled started at 9 a.m. that Sunday morning, and due to unavoidable delays, it started at 9:02 and ended at 9:25. 23 minutes is all it took to conduct the ceremony. When the Japanese came up for the ceremony, there were 4 civilians in the group. 3 of them dressed for a very formal diplomatic occasion. They were in top hat and tails, black ascot, white vest, white gloves. 7 military men made up the balance of the delegation. They were wearing their best field uniforms, all their shoulder braids, their ribbons, and their white gloves. The allied officers standing facing them across the table were dressed similarly, and I point that out because we can only guess what they must have been thinking. They stood there looking at 3 rows of U.S. officers in an L formation around the ceremony, plus the ones in the ceremony, because every U.S. officer there that morning, from General MacArthur down, was wearing their working khakis. Khaki pants, khaki shirt, no tie, open collar, and none of their ribbons. Their work uniform by order of General MacArthur. Basically, he told them, this is a work day, you will come dressed for work, because as soon as it's over, we're going to work. Now, if you happen to don't know much about MacArthur on your own, and I told you no more, I'd understand if you begin to wonder about him. 20 to 30 minutes in work clothes, what's going on? Well, I promise you, if you'll go watch that video and listen to a speech during the ceremony, you will have no doubt he did understand what was happening that morning, and he deeply cared. Once the ceremony was over, the Japanese left. He made a second speech. You can't listen to this on the video. It isn't on any of them. It was heard by a lot more people at the time because they created a radio network reaching around the globe. See, what they realized at that time was everybody wanted to know that that horrible tragedy was truly, finally over. We can't even begin to imagine today how badly they wanted to know. The second speech was pretty short as far as speeches go, but it was also very, very powerful. If you'd like to read the entire speech, it's available on the internet. Just do a search for General Douglas MacArthur speeches. You can read you'll find several websites where you can read it. We include a portion. This is my cheat sheet. I got it memorized. I normally do great, but I have noticed my mind has the capability of going blank or getting distracted, sometimes for no apparent reason. I don't know if any can relate to that or not.
Oh, yeah.
So this is my back. Don't start me on that again. This is my backup just in case, because everything else I tell you is my words. These are his words, and they're really, really good. I want to be sure I get them right for you. Okay, let's see how I do this last tour of the day. So far, I've been doing all right. But you guys are good. Okay. Today, the guns are silent. A great tragedy is ended. A great victory's been won. The skies no longer rain death. The seas bear only commerce. Men everywhere walk uprightly in the sunlight. The entire world is quietly at peace. I thank a merciful God. He's given us the faith, the courage, and the power from which to mold victory. We've known the bitterness of defeat, the exultation of triumph. From both we've learned there can be no turning back. We must go forward to preserve in peace what we won in war. It must be of the Spirit if we are to save the flesh. Some pretty powerful words.